Hi, Mars Hill. Jesus says to his disciples in Luke chapter 10, verse 2, right before he sends them out into his mission field, he says that the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. And so we need to pray to the Lord of the harvest that he would send out laborers into his harvest. And this is our prayer for our church. We feel missionally called and responsible for a large group of people from North Admiral all the way down to North Burien and just a little bit east. That comprises about 205,000 people that we want to love and bless and serve and care for and be a witness to for Christ's glory and for his name and fame and for the good of our city. And we have around 38 different community groups right now sort of sprinkled throughout various neighborhoods in West Seattle, but we need that number to grow, and so we're going to need laborers to be sent into the harvest of our good and glorious God. And in fact, by the end of June, we will have multiplied our community groups to about 50, and we want to see that number exponentially increase over the next year to 2 years. We believe that in order for us to be able to effectively reach the area we feel called to, we're probably going to need to plant about one community group for every 1,000 people, which isn't saturation by any means, but it's a good start for us and a good benchmark, which means if we're at 50 by the end of June, we're going to need another 150 community groups. And we can do this. Just imagine if apprentices are being raised up under community group leaders and our community groups grow and multiply every year to 18 months. This means that within a year or so, we'll be at 100 community groups, and then within the next year to 18 months after that, we would easily be at 200. We think that this is a good benchmark for us and a good goal for us to go after, which simply means we need you. We need you to offer up yourselves and your life. We need you to respond to the call of Christ to be raised up as laborers into his harvest. And so we want to help you with that. We believe that the primary role of the elders is to equip the saints to do the work of the ministry for the building up of the body of Christ. And so we want you to know that we're not going to leave you alone in this endeavor. We're calling you to something that we want to train you into. And so we're going to host another apprentice class based on the response that we get from those writing in saying essentially through email or letting us know, here I am, Lord, send me. I want to be an apprentice. I want to be a host. I want to be a community group leader. And then we'll give you the training that's necessary. Additionally, as you know, we have a monthly community group leader sync that we want you to start participating in so you can hear what we're talking about and how we're strategizing and planning and praying to be missionally effective in our city. Also, we will have a kind of an incubation time for each new community group that's planting. We have a curriculum that we ask that you take your community group through. It's about 6 to 8 weeks, and this essentially gives you the sort of whys and whats of being a community group, a community formed and transformed by the gospel, lifted up for mission, and then sent out as a community of God's people to love and bless those in the various neighborhoods of our city. And so you're not alone in this. We also have head coaches and coaches that will be appointed to you that will help you in your growth. But we see that in order for us to serve all the various needs that we have in our city, as I mentioned a few days ago in a post on God opening doors for us, there are so many things that that God seems to be doing, and we want to be good stewards of that. So we're going to need to really call a bunch of new leaders, a new crop of emerging leaders to really step up and help us and ultimately serve the cause of Christ. We don't believe that there's anything greater than God's kingdom advancing in our time. In fact, this is why God didn't take us away from this world, but in fact he prays to his Father for his disciples. Father, do not take them out of this world, but keep them from the evil one. And he also says, so as the Father has sent me, so I send you. We're a sent people that have been blessed to be a blessing, and we want to make sure that we do well with what God's given to us, that the baton that's been passed to us, that we hand on to the next group of emerging leaders and ultimately to the next generations. So if you would, I would like for you to contact Cliff Ellis at cliffE@marshill.com. We'll make you aware of the coming Apprentice Day training, and then let's see what God does. We know that this is a big ask, which is why Jesus calls us to pray to the Lord of the harvest. And so this is what we're doing. When we gather together together to pray once a month, we're praying to the Lord of the harvest. When we gather together corporately every Sunday morning, we're praying to the Lord of the harvest. I'd ask that you do that as well. One last thing. We have around 13 different community groups to 15 different community groups that are above 16 folks in their community group. We recognize that just from a social dynamic, that a community group that's bigger than, say, 12 people, you begin to have a diminishing return on your ability to effectively gospel one another, renew one another, and see one another reaching others for Christ. It gets a little bit cramped in our homes. It's a little bit more difficult to do just various social gatherings with, and also it's hard for us to really call our people to be open and transparent and vulnerable with one another, to really think creatively and missionally when we gather together. If we have that many people, as you can see, after you reach that sort of tipping point, it ends up becoming a little bit more insular, a little bit more difficult to share. People aren't nearly as willing and open to offer up what they're struggling through and wrestling through, and it's just hard to welcome other people into our communities. So if you are in a community group that is that size, would you be gathering even this week and next and asking God to help you understand what it looks like for you to multiply? And then let us know. We want to help with that process.